Hello everyone, I'm Coach Jacinto. I'm currently a strength and conditioning coach at Franklin High School here in Portland, Oregon. Most of you know that in 2019, I decided to go back and get my master's in teaching. This way I could be a teacher, a strength and conditioning coach at a high school. I worked in the private sector for a long time, and I really wanted to make a difference in the public sector. So I noticed that a lot of the student athletes that were coming to see me in the private sector obviously were the ones that could afford me. And I noticed that strength and conditioning benefited these student athletes tremendously. So I thought to myself, why not get back into the high school setting and be able to provide this type of training to all student athletes? So 5 years ago, I had some questions that I really, wish that I knew answers to, just to help me get back into the high school setting. Because I think logistics really matter in the high school setting, maybe now more than ever, just because there's so much out there, right? Should we be squatting, front squatting? Should we deadlift, no deadlift, trap bar deadlift? Unilateral, bilateral, eccentric, isometric, there's all these things, right? So I want to put this video together because I was thought to myself, okay, so what would you do what kind of video do you want to present? What kind of video do you wish that you saw 5 years ago before you got into the high school setting? So I kind of want to hopefully answer some questions that some of you that are maybe interested or just getting started, or maybe you've been in the industry and hopefully you can get something out of this as well. So here's some questions that I had, right? So what type of exercises do I use? Do I, how much rep, how much volume? Do I change the intensity in season, out of season? So there was just tons of questions. Here are just a few questions that I had. So hopefully these videos that I'm going to make about 5 or 6 videos and just kind of talk about all the different things that I wish I knew 5 years ago. Okay, so the first thing that I would tell myself would be keep it simple. Just be basic. Keep it simple. Don't overthink this. There's so much out there, right? Especially with social media. If I do this exercise, am I going to get more likes? Is this exercise sexier than this exercise? Those types of things. So what I would tell myself is just keep it simple. And so here's kind of a slide of what I decided to do is just start with the 4 basic movement patterns, right? So squats, a push, a hip hinge, and a pull, right? Some people would add a carry to that, right? So, but I'm just gonna keep it simple. Let's just start with the 4 basic movement patterns. Now, I utilized something that I learned along the way was the tier system. So I adapted the tier system from Joe Kenn. Joe Kenn if you don't know about Joe Kenn, he is the creator of the tier system, and obviously things have been modified a little bit. I modified it a little bit just to kind of help it more in my high school setting. But Joe Kenn, if you want to know more about the tier system, you can find some great information about the tier system from Joe Kenn. Okay, so but here's how I break it down. So I break it up at tiers. And I break it up to 4 basic movement patterns in tiers. So as you can see, let's start with the squats. So tier 1 is like our priority lift, our main lift that we use in our strength and conditioning program. Okay, so tier 1 for the squats, we'll go back squats. Okay, and then tier 2, we'll use the front squat. Tier 3, we'll use some type of single leg squat, whether it's a lunge, lateral lunge, forward lunge, backward lunge, RFE, rear foot elevated squat, or step ups. Anything that has to do with unilateral is what we use for our tier 3. Our push is very similar, how it breaks down. So our tier 1 is our bench press, our tier 2 is the incline bench press, and then our tier 3 is some single arm overhead press. Okay, those are our push. And that can vary, right? Single leg, single arm, depending on your athlete. We can do dumbbells versus barbells, okay? But this let's just keep it simple for now, all right? So for our hip hinge, our priority lift goes back and forth from either deadlifts or cleans, okay? So it just really depends on the time of the season. But for now, let's go deadlifts. Deadlifts are tier 1, cleans are tier 2, and some type of unilateral, so single leg deadlifts are our tier 3, okay? Our tier 1 for pulls are pull-ups. Our tier 2, some single arm rows. And then our tier 3 is more of a bent over row. And those could change, right? Those could be either one or the other, but I think logistically for me, this is how it makes the most sense, okay? Now, so this is kind of how I break it down into the days, okay? So the tier system is a 3-day workout, 3 days a week workout. And this is how I break them down, my four basic movement patterns, and this is how I kind of put them in the day. Now with the tier system, the way it works is for one day, it's lower body, upper body, and total body. So that's our day 1, okay? And then you can see day 2 is UTL, so upper body, total body, and lower body. And then for day 3 is total body, lower body, and upper body. So you can see each day our priority lift is different, but yet we're still working full body exercises, but the emphasis changes from day to day, okay? So day 1, LUT, is back squat for our lower body, U, upper body. Our tier 2 is overhead press and pull-ups, okay? And then our tier 3 for our total body is some type of jump. Okay, so resisted assisted jump, which is our lowest tier for jumping, okay? And so then you go day 2, U, upper body, which is bench press and single arm rows. We pair those together because logistically it just makes sense for us. Is how we can fit all these exercises, our non-negotiables, into 3 days. Then tier 2, for our day 2 is our total body, so weighted jumps. What I like for a total body is during this tier is to use some type of power exercise, okay? So for our total body, tier 2 is our weighted jumps. For lower body, tier 3 is some type of single leg, okay? So an RFE, lateral lunges. What I like to do with this is week 1 and week 3, we go RFEs, okay? And then week 2 and week 4, we go lateral lunge, okay? So this way, so we're hitting our linear and our lateral within that month, okay? Day 3, our total body, which is our cleans, okay? Here's our power exercise. We go cleans, and then we go lower body, okay? TL, which is the lower body. Then we go front squats for our tier 2, okay? And then U, upper body, which is the tier 3, we'll go bent over rows. And this is why I have the bent over rows as a tier 3 exercise, because it matches up logistically for us. So it could be either 1 or 2, okay? But for us, logistically, it just makes sense to be at the tier 3, okay? So that's our core lifts. These are kind of our non-negotiables. This is kind of what I use. And you can see there's nothing fancy in here. They're all pretty basic. And that's one thing that I would tell myself is like, just keep it basic. Yes, there's a lot of cool and fancy exercises out there, but you're working with high school students. So keep it simple, keep it basic, okay? Now I would go into our accessories, right? So where are our accessories? So for our accessory work, this is kind of how I would break it down. Now here's where you have some leeway, so where we can actually add different stuff. So I would approach all my different coaches. I'm like, hey, what's an exercise? What are some exercises that you feel that your athlete needs? Okay, and then we can kind of plug them in to this template here. Okay, to where let's see where it fits logistically. Okay, this way our coaches have a little bit of say in the programming. All right, so for day 1, we do a lot of iso footwork. Okay, isometric footwork, or we'll do some type of lateral, some heel raises. So we do a lot of footwork, right? So I think feet are an often forgotten part of our body, right? And we just put so much pressure and we ask so much from our foot. So why not work the foot? Cal Dietz has some amazing things about Isometric footwork. So if you want to know more about that, definitely look up research more on Cal Dietz's isometric footwork. Okay. For our upper body, we've got biceps, and then we do some hamstring slides. And then for day 2, our upper body is our triceps. Our total body is med ball slams. So remember, total body, here's where we kind of put in a lot of our power exercise. So here's a med ball side toss. Okay, and then lower body, we got some good mornings. As you can see, we do a lot of hamstring work. Okay, hamstring slides work great. So that you just need some carpet, some furniture movers, and we're doing some slides. And then good morning, banded good mornings. Our high school athletes do really well with these. So now we've got 2 days where we can really hit those hamstrings, okay? And then down below, you can see all the different ab workouts, depending on, you can kind of move it, but logistically, this is how it makes sense for us. We got abs for day 1, standing curls for day 2, and then some type of V-ups for day 3. And you can do so many different things here, right? So it just really depends on what makes sense for you in your weight room. What can you do? For day 3, our total body, here's our slams, here's our power, right? For our lower body, we're gonna do some type of stretch because it's towards the end of the week. And a stretch would be good in here. So we kind of plug in a stretch there. And then we do a upper body, which are some pullovers. You can do pullovers, incline bench press, but for now, we'll just plug in a pullover there. And like I said, this is the great thing about the tier system, is that you can modify it as you go, okay? Plug in different exercises, but this template right here works great. And then you can see V-ups at the end, okay? Now this is kind of how it looks all together, okay? Kind of, I'll show you the next slide of how I piece it together. But for day 1, here are our exercises, our core lifts are at the top, and then we've got our accessory work at the bottom, okay? So now we've lined them up in our days. So now we have a pretty good idea of what's gonna go where, right? So now what I have to think, okay, so how can I fit them into my weight room? Right now in my weight room, I have 10 racks. So I can fit up to 40 kids in there, okay? 40 kids, that seems like a lot of kids in a weight room with only 10 racks. So now what I'll do is I wanna group them up into their rack group and give them exercises where they can circuit around them, all right? So this way, if I give them a place to be, they're gonna kind of stay on track. Or it gives me an opportunity to say, hey, why are you not doing footwork? Let's go, okay? So I give them a place. So this way I'm not just telling them where you're supposed to be. I kind of know what they're supposed to be doing, and I can give them direction to keep them in motivated to kind of stay on track, okay? So here's how I'll piece it together. Okay, this is what makes sense for me logistically in the weight room. This is the space that I have. It could be a little different for you. This is a great thing about the tier system. You can modify it to whatever works for you, okay? So day 1, so we've got our tier 1, we have A1 and A2, so our back squat and our iso footwork. We pair those two together. So now in the rack, I've got one person back squatting, I've got another person spotting, and then I have another person doing some iso footwork. So now I've got 3 stations where they can kind of circuit around those 3 stations, right? So nobody's not really standing around a lot, okay? And you can see, we'll go through the tier 1 so you can kind of see how that works there. So now we've got bench press for day 2 with single arm rows, okay? So we've got bench press, we got a push, and then we've got a pull. So we'll put plyo boxes on each bench to where somebody's benching, somebody's spotting, and the other person's doing single arm rows. Now we're just kind of rotating around from that top tier, okay? Day 3, we've got cleans and med ball slams. Same thing, somebody standing behind in cleans, somebody doing some slams, and somebody actually doing the exercise, the clean, and they're circuiting around. Tier 2, very similar. But now we're gonna add, since it's a little less taxing, these exercises, tier 2 and tier 3, a little less taxing to the nervous system, right? We're gonna add another exercise. So we're gonna circuit through 3 exercises here, okay? So now we've got an overhead press, pull-ups, and then we do some bicep work. Now, the great thing about it is you can kind of move things around to what work for you, right? So we've got overhead press, which are seated. We always start with seated just because it isolates the shoulders a little bit more. Obviously, as we move into season, they'll progress to push press, okay? But for now, when we're early in season, off season, early off season, we'll start with some seated overhead press. And then we're going to pull-ups, okay? So we've got seated on the bench, which is outside of the rack. Then we've got pull-ups on the rack. And then we use a bar for bicep curls, right? So now we've got boom, 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 1, 2, and 3, okay? Where they're all kind of circuiting around that circuit. So I've created a circuit for them, okay? With these 3 exercises. And I try to do that with all the exercises, okay? So then tier 3, we'll do some type of resisted, assisted jump, hamstring slides, ab wheel rollout. What I'm using here now is more of a dead bug, or you can dead bugs work for you, some type of other ab work, whatever you want to do, you can add that to there, okay? And you can see our tier 2, weighted jumps. Here's our power. This is for day 2, so day 2, tier 2, okay? Weighted jumps, med ball slams, and then we've got a banded good morning, okay? And then for our tier 3 for day 2, RFE or lateral, depending on the day, okay? Depending on the week. Then we've got some triceps, because we can throw some triceps in there. We want to throw some triceps, and it just works for us logistically there, okay? And then some standing curls, okay? Then for day 3, for our tier 2, you can see we got front squats, okay? Single leg deadlift, and then some type of stretch, okay? That's our lower body tier there, okay? And then you can go for day 3, tier 3, bend over rows, pullovers, and V-ups. As you can see, this just makes logistically these exercises, the way they're grouped together, they just make sense for us. And it helps with classroom management, okay? All right, so next video, I'm gonna go over all the different plans that I use throughout the year, okay? So, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.